What is going on, everyone? It's Coach Nick with Unfinished Lifestyle. I'm the main host today. This is cool.
Yes.
I feel so special taking over Johan's job because apparently he wasn't doing very good at it. So now I'm stepping in. But I decided to invite him back to be the co-host.
Yep.
Because I felt bad for him. So I wanted to keep him
Always
involved.
here. Always here.
Today we are with Austin, one of my clients who's been with me just over a year.
Yes.
Has a very crazy story. Very crazy way of how we met and how we got connected and how we decided to go through all this together. So very excited to talk about that. We're going to talk about your updated DEXA scan we just got done yesterday. We're going to talk about the crazy conversations you've had with your doctor, previous nutritionists and coaches and what they've had you do, the frustrations you've gone through. So this is going to be a very, very informative and I think pretty intense episode as to what we're going to talk about. So I'm excited, but I just want to ask you, how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. Doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Been loving the program, been loving the nutrition, the diet. Everything that we're doing feels like it's working excellent. I've definitely not had the results that I've had ever before. So feeling great.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you, man, because he's been kind of filling me up with your progress and what's going on. And the things that we've done that he's been doing with you has been phenomenal. And it's literally the opposite of what everyone else is telling you to do.
100%.
Which we're going to talk about that today.
Which, and we've been quiet about it. And so now that we're doing this, I'm going to post your transformation, obviously with your permission. I want to do that on Monday, put all the stats in there. Or I'll probably wait actually till we get your updated blood work because I want to talk about that as well. But when we go over what it is that you've been doing to cut and how much food you're still eating, I think it's going to blow people's minds.
For sure.
Because we started with the carb cycle doing 2 low, 1 high. Your body loved it. We started to run into that issue where it was plateauing, so we do refeeds.
How many calories is he eating?
We got him up, I think, to like 3,800.
3,800.
It was 3,800, yeah. So we got him up there when we found his metabolic rate. And then we started his cut from around there. So your carbs are sitting at like 350. And we did 2 low, 1 high, so his low days were 250. Kept his high day at the 350. Eventually, I started giving him refeeds to help get him through that little bit of a plateau, get his body to start responding. And then we wanted to get a little bit more aggressive with the cut. So I said, let's go to 3 low, 1 high. And then eventually we're going to start lowering the high days and the low days, go through the process. The second I did that, 3 low, 1 high, I think within 2 weeks, he only dropped 1/4 pound. His body did not like it. It started retaining water. It was very much under stress. We went back to 2 low, 1 high, and within like a few days, he dropped 3-4 pounds.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've had to stay at 2 low, 1 high. We eventually just moved to 2 high, 2 low. Keeping granted, I haven't changed his carbs at all. His high days are still 350, low days are still 250. Because the second I tried to pull food away in just a small amount like that, his body does not like it.
And what's the time frame?
We started the cut in January.
Yep.
So, and that's where I wanted to get really aggressive with it so we could really hit this hard. But again, with how his body was responding, there was just zero way that we could go as aggressive as we normally do with our fat loss clients.
And I think cutting is such a broad spectrum. What I mean by that is everyone cut in a different caloric intake, right? For example. Yeah. In my honest opinion, like I don't really feel like he's really cutting.
No.
Right? Because you're not really on a deficit. You're not even eating below 2,500, really. Right. So
we had that conversation the other day. You brought it up, and you were saying that you were on social media and seeing people talk about when they're cutting and all that, how they're suffering and how they're feeling. And what was the question you asked me?
Yeah, I asked Nick. I said, I don't feel like that's been my experience. I don't feel that I'm like starving or super low energy. Certainly, when I started the cut, that first month was, I felt it. My lifts in the gym, didn't have as much energy, and I definitely felt my low days and high days, but now it feels pretty routine. Yeah. So yeah.
I love that. Let's start from the beginning, right? So what I'm asking for is like, how did you get started? Where did you get started? And how long did it took you to find Nick?
Yeah.
And what was that process was like? Because I know there's a lot of details there.
Yeah, for sure. So my story starts a few years back. I went to Puerto Rico on vacation with a group of friends, and several of them were videographers. I'm a photographer, so we had cameras.
What year was this?
I think it was 2000, maybe 2017, 2018. Okay. And when we got home from the trip, we had vlogged the whole trip and whatever. I watched the video of that trip and saw myself as like somebody in my early 30s that, I mean, I wasn't like severely obese or whatever, but I had just this big gut, you know, on me, and just didn't look fit, didn't look like the person I wanted to be in that video. And I kind of just had this reality check of like, you used to lift in high school. I did weights class in high school. After high school, I was a firefighter EMT, so I was decently fit. But in my 20s, like, I had poor health choices. You know, I was a paramedic, so I did graveyard shifts and was eating pizza at night and fast food all the time and whatever. And then in my early 30s, I could definitely tell I paid the price for that, because I had this gut, just was like not very happy with my self-image. So I reached out to a girl that I had been friends with for years that's a trainer, and said, hey, I really think I need your help. I'm ready to start a program. Like, I need to get fit. And she said, okay, you know, I need, you know, $2,000 or whatever it was, and I'll put you on a 6-month program. And I said, you know what, maybe I'll start next month. I'll let you know about the money or whatever. And she gave me a huge reality check that like really changed my life, because she says, well, actually, just don't call me back again. And I said, wait, what? And she said, well, if you're not going to pay the money right now, you're not serious about your fitness.
That is 100%.
And I took a step back, and I was like, wait, you're right. You know, she says, Austin, I know you work in tech. Don't act like, you know, you don't have the money. We both know you have the money. You're just not serious about your fitness journey.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
I respect that.
Yeah,
I respect
I
when coaches do that.
Yeah.
Because we do that. I do the same thing.
And I literally got off the phone and cried for like 30 minutes, like as a grown ass man, thinking about that. It was like, what is my problem? What is it that do I really want? Like, do I really want this? Am I serious? Yeah. And I called her back and I said, what's your Venmo? And I Venmo'd her $2,000 right then. And that was the very start of my fitness journey. And when I started working with her, she's an awesome trainer. She really kicked me into high gear. You know, we had a conversation about needing to change all my eating, and that was a radical shift for me. You know, I was eating a ton of processed foods.
How old were you at this point?
Early 30s.
Okay.
Like maybe 31 or 32. Okay. And so, yeah. So when I met with her, she like, I thought she was like really crazy, because she's like, here's your new meal plan with like wheat bread and eggs and like, you know, healthy meats and
typical healthy stuff.
Coconut milk and no soda, and you need to just drink black coffee and 0 sugar, 0 treats, 0 fruit, you know, things like this. And I'm like, who are you? And she like made me record throwing all the shit away in my apartment. And I'm like, she is psycho.
Did you have a lot of stuff?
I did. Like,
did you notice? Do you have a lot of junk food?
When I went home and I looked at my meal plan and I looked at what was in the counter or in the cupboard, I literally had nothing on the meal plan at all. I was like, what the heck, right? So I was like, wow, I haven't been eating healthy. And so I bagged all that up into like literally like 2 garbage bags, and hauled it out of my apartment and went and donated it to like the Catholic donation center I lived by or whatever. And I started eating like this really crappy wheat bread that I like didn't taste great. Like this food tasted like shit. And
At first,
just removing sugars from your diet was like this massive thing.
Yeah.
And going to the she had me on a program to go to the gym for like an hour and 20 minutes of programming like 3 times a week. And that honestly kicked my ass at that point. Yep. Like I didn't have a routine. So like I did it for like the first 2 weeks. And then the 3rd week I didn't go to the gym, and I had to check in with her on Sunday. And I was like, should I lie about this to her? And I was like, no, I got more integrity to it. She won't care that I missed the gym this week. So I put that in my check-in, and I got a phone call from her like 30 minutes later.
I like this girl.
And
I like this person. Me too.
She chewed my ass out. Yeah. Why didn't you go to the gym? Oh, I was too busy this week. And she's like, no.
Were you really busy?
I was my normal busy. I just didn't feel like going. And she knew it.
Yeah.
And she chewed me up and down and said, if you want to transform your life, the gym has to become a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't care if you have to be there at 10 p.m. I go to the gym at 10 p.m. some days during the week if I have to, but the gym is just like taking a shower or brushing your teeth.
It's a routine.
You don't miss the gym. Like just, she's like, you can't bullshit me. I've been a trainer for a while, you know, like you have to go. And I'm like, oh, holy shit. So it took me a while to really change my life to build that routine to go to the gym. And anyway, when I started with her, I literally weighed 216 pounds, I believe. And in a 6-month period of time, she got me down to 189 pounds.
Wow.
And I had toned up and put some muscle on and got all kinds of compliments from that. And then I was like, hey, I got this, you know, after her program. So I didn't re-up on her program or whatever.
So you only did 6 months.
Yeah. And I didn't really have the tools to, like, I thought I knew what I was doing. I didn't know about bulking or cutting. Like, I hadn't learned any of that. And in fact, like, I just was living off of her meal plan that she gave me. And was like, oh, I kind of get this idea that I need protein and I need carbs and whatever. And so I like started downloading programs off the internet of like the calories that I thought I needed. And I was like really hungry because she had me on 1,500 calories. That's how I got to 189. Gotcha. So I started downloading all these programs and just self-managing. And then I went and did a DEXA scan after 8 months of flying solo. And I shouldn't quit my day job and become a trainer because I literally had 0 results from that 8 months. The numbers were literally the exact same.
Yeah.
And
it must be like, frustrating.
That's frustrating. I'm going to double down, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like maybe I wasn't in the gym and much, whatever. So I spent another 6 months just self-managing and self-programming. I like started downloading like Athlean X's programs online and started doing this stuff. Well, then I went and got a DEXA scan, and well, I like kind of like slipped in and out of programming and consistency. And I think it was like 9 months later, I went to get a DEXA scan and I was like 212 pounds. So I had back up. And
do you remember where your body fat was?
Yeah, it was if I remember, it was like in the early 30s, like 33, 34%.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm in the gym every day and it doesn't look like I'm in the gym every day. Like, what do I do? You know? And so I hired another trainer, another girl that I really trust, that I really respect. And
so let me back up real quick. Yeah. Now I understood why he got where he is.
Yeah.
Because you were on a deficit for 6 months basically.
Yeah.
And then you continue on to be on a deficit, probably the same amount of calories, another 8 months on top of that.
Yeah.
And then another 6 months on top of that.
Yeah.
So now you're skyrocketed into the point where your body becomes catabolic, reserving energy instead of burning calories.
Yeah.
And now you're back up to 212 or
well,
whatever.
And doubling down in the gym and trying to push more.
Yeah. So your body reacts backward. Oh, wow. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So I hired this other girl who was my business partner's sister. And she's like a power lifter, a really smart gal. And I went to her and I said, hey, I'm not getting the results that I want. I think I need a trainer. I just need more help. I want to get stronger. I need to take this weight off. And her idea was, let's go back to the fundamentals. Let's see how you're lifting. Her philosophy was, we need to get you back to, you know, foundations of lifting and like building muscle. And then the fat loss will come from that. And she certainly provided me a little bit of guidance on the nutrition, but her big thing was, I can't provide you a meal plan because I'm not a nutritionist.
Yeah.
I guess that's an illegal thing, right?
It's not that, well, it's not necessarily that it's illegal, but it's more ethical. Like, ethical. You know, I'm glad that she said that.
Yeah.
You know, she's not a nutritionist, doesn't understand
she says,
food.
I'll teach you about macro splitting, and like we'll do some calculations of where I think you need to be on your calories, and I'll provide guidance from that. Yeah. But you really got to build your own meal plan, kind of a deal. And I was like, okay. So I was self-managing my nutrition, and she did an amazing job for 6 months of teaching me like I was lifting pretty heavy, and she's like, no, we're starting over. And I like started learning how to like deadlift just the bar and just bench the bar to perfect form. So she really like remastered my understanding of form, because her idea was you master form and then build weight on top of that. So I learned an awesome thing from her for doing that. But at the end of that 6 months, my weight hadn't changed. It went from like 215 to maybe 212. And I was like, why am I not getting down to like 189 like I was, you know? So she asked me if I wanted to re-up on her 6-month program. And I said, you know what? No, I think I got this. Like, I'll just keep lifting heavy. And I think I have my nutrition kind of figured out. I had this like 200 calorie diet meal plan from the
Still
internet PDF or something downloaded. And so I was like, you know, eating really healthy and had been consistent with that. And again, self-managed for about 6 months. And then I went and scanned again and I had no changes and I freaked out. So I was like, okay, I think I'm lifting fine. I'm going to the gym. It's not a consistency issue, but it's a nutrition problem. So where I go get DEXA scans, there's a nutritionist that they offer. So I started visiting with this gal. She very expensive, by the way. I had to pay her hourly rate, which was like $180 to visit with her or something like that.
Wow.
So
just for nutrition.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I showed up and told her the problem, and she said, well, honestly, if you want to lose weight, like if you're eating 2,200 calories, like I think you're eating too much, and nutrition is simple. You know, you got to exert more calories than you're intaking. So we need to lower your calories. But she started also addressing like all kinds of different levers of like, I think you're eating too late in the evening and we need to get you to stop eating at like 7 p.m. And
I've never understood that myth.
Which is
I never understand that.
funny philosophy.
Yeah.
But I understand some coaches do that.
Yeah. So we started like playing around with like little things like that. And she put me on a 1,500 calorie diet. And, like in the evenings, my brain wasn't working. Like I have a very cognitive job. And I'm also a creative. I do photography. So in the evenings, I just wasn't, like my brain, just major brain fog, and I was tired and just miserable. My gym performance took a massive hit. So I called her back up and said, hey, what do I do? Like this isn't working, kind of a deal. And she said, well, why don't we come in and measure your actual basal metabolic rate, and then we'll know where your calories like for sure need to be. Yeah. So I paid another like $150 to go in and breathe in this tube for 30 minutes, this test that they do. And the computer came back and said that my caloric intake needed to be 2,200 calories.
Yeah.
So she says, oh, I understand what's going on here. You're eating way too little calories. We need to jack your calories way up. She's like,
so you went from 22 immediately down to 15, sitting there for a minute, and then had to jump immediately back to 2,200 calories.
Yeah. But well, that's what the test came back. She says, I think you're actually under eating and your body's like holding on to fat. So she offered a 2,800 calorie diet. She's like, I think we need to jack you way up. And I said, wait a minute, like you're a nutritionist. I don't feel that you're confident. Before it was like, you need to be way low. And then now you need to be way high. I kind of just didn't find credibility there. So I was like, I just don't think I trust you.
Nope.
And it also wasn't feasible to work with her because it was like $150 for like a 45-minute consultation. And then they charge
weekly?
No, per hour. And then I had to pay more. But
once a week though. Or how many times a week?
She wasn't a trainer, just a nutritionist. So just to go in and consult with her. Okay. And then to do meal plans, like they had these packages that I had to pay, which were a few $100s each to do a custom macro split and whatever. So it just economically wasn't reasonable anymore. So what do you do in that point? You go to your family doctor. Yep. So I went to a doctor at the University of Utah and said, hey, I'm really concerned. I'm wondering if there's something wrong with me. Like I'm not taking weight off. I brought up the whole testosterone thing because I had a number of friends who got their testosterone checked. And this lady said, honestly, she's like, you're not going to like what I am going to tell you, but you're not working hard enough. She says the American Heart Association recommends that you do cardio, like intermediate level cardio for, I think it's 150 minutes a week.
Yeah.
So she says you need to be doing cardio, like, you know, be on the treadmill for like an hour times 5 during the week, including your weightlifting. And she says, I'd even put you down to 1,300 calories to get this fat off of you, but you got to do something, you know? So I was like, that's crazy. I know I wouldn't have energy. Like I can barely function at 15. I can't like also lift and like go be on the treadmill for an hour. And
For a little bit of perspective, I think like 1,300 calories, just so people understand, like a Costa Vida burrito is like 1,200.
Yeah.
So
eating that, if you ate
or
that
around like
once,
800, 900. So you have to sustain meals all day.
Yeah.
That equal up to, you know, a salad or a burrito from Costa Vida that some people just eat for dinner.
Right. And by the way, the caloric intake that you're eating, 1,500 to 2,200 is what our females are actually eating.
Yeah.
At a 5'2", weighing at 150 pounds.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? So which we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
But anyway, go. Yeah.
Anyway, so I was like, I don't know if that's right. Like, I think something physiologically is wrong with me. And she's like, well, we'll do some basic blood work, but I'm not going to test your testosterone. She says every dude that comes in here thinks that their testosterone's messed up, and it usually isn't. It's lifestyle choices. And I'm like, okay, so
well, how do you know if you haven't got
and
it
she's
checked?
like, well, let's look into your lifestyle first. Like, are you sleeping enough? Are you getting enough hours of sleep?
Yeah.
She's like, it's pretty clear you're probably exercising enough, but like, are you drinking alcohol? And I'm like, no, not really. Socially here and there. She's like, well, maybe you need to knock off like the 1 drink a month. Maybe that's causing you problems, you know, all of these things, just kind of pulling at straws, you know? And I said, I'm like, I was so confused because I was like, you just have to tick the box to get like the testosterone test ordered. Like it's not a big deal, but she refused to test it. Yep. Said, we'll do basic blood work to make sure like we're not missing the bigger picture here. And when the blood work came back, it was fine. My triglycerides at that point were a little bit high. But everything looked normal. So she says, physiologically, you check out, you don't have a problem. She's like, I don't know what to tell you other than you need to just really hit the cardio hard. Yeah.
I think a lot of doctors are that way though. Like I went to my doctor and family doctor, got a full blood panel. They checked my testosterone and I said, what are my levels? And he said, you don't need to know that.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean I don't need to know that? Like that's my body. And I was like, well, is it okay? And he goes, it's fine. Like it's in the green.
Yeah.
And then when I got tested by a hormone specialist, he said, medically, it is in the green, but like barely. Because I came back at like 340, and he goes, that's in the green as long as it's above 300. But think about it like this, between 100 and 1200, so like 1 to 12, 12 being amazing, 1 being really poor, your body makes testosterone at about 3.5.
Yeah.
And he was like, so it's good enough to like be alive.
Right.
And be a functioning human, but it's not optimal.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of doctors are just like, you don't need to know that. It's none of your business. And it's like, what do you mean? Is that?
And we'll talk about that. There's a huge misconception as to what testosterone is and why we test it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I also want to bring up really quick. So you went to this doctor. Is this the same doctor that was concerned about the fatty liver?
No.
that was a different one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'll get to that.
Yeah.
But so here I am in a situation where I've done everything I know how to do as a functioning independent adult, of hiring professionals in my life to
Three at this point.
to provide guidance and direction. And I'm like, this shouldn't be that hard. Like, I got some baby fat on me that needs to get off. Like, I don't understand. You know, I've been through several trainers. I've, got a doctor who thinks I need to do more cardio. I have a nutritionist that's confused, that thinks that now I need to be eating a shit ton more food. Like, what do you do? I was like, and so I was starting to get kind of depressed. And I took a few days to like think, what is going on? Like, I see these ripped dudes in the gym, like they figure it out. And that was the answer to me. I was like, maybe I need to not talk to doctors, and I need to not talk to the nutritionist. And I just need to find like one of these bodybuilder people that are like super ripped, obviously like knows their stuff about bulking and cutting. At that point, like bulking and cutting were just terms I knew. I didn't know much about that, but I was like, these bodybuilders take fat off all the time and then they put on muscle all the time. So like, shouldn't they be the experts? So I got on a Facebook group called Connect Utah and just was like, hey, I'm just looking for somebody that like knows anything about bulking and cutting, that like works with like athletic people, that could provide me some guidance. Like I'll pay for an hour phone call to like tell them my problem, but I'm struggling, you know? And then that's when Nick reached out and said, hey, I'll chat with you. And,
did you get many hits at that point? Like many coaches?
I think there's a decent amount that had
but some guy had like tagged Nick and was like,
I can't remember
hey,
who it was.
Nick,
Someone tagged me in it.
Nick would be good to talk to. And then he reached out to me and he was just the first person I called. So maybe
shout out to Connect Utah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I got on a phone call with Nick and said, hey dude, like I'm really overwhelmed. Here's my story. This is what, you know, what happened with my first trainer, my second trainer, my doctor, my nutritionist. I just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah. So we started the call and then you asked me, how much do I need to pay you for the hour? I'm like $0. Like, you don't need to pay me, right?
Yeah. Our consultation is free, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. It's
we
free.
Don't charge you.
And to me, so one of the reasons why I don't charge is because this is my job. So for me, ethically, if someone's reaching out when they have a question, I want to help, right? Whereas, unfortunately, in the industry, there's a lot of people, maybe some that you've come across, who they're more focused on getting that hourly rate, and they just want you to pay them, right? So they can make money. But so we got talking, and you told me your story, and I listened to it, and then I told you, like, I'm going to be honest with you. This is how we do it. If you were to work with me, I would need to find your metabolic rate, which
right
means
off the bat.
Right, yeah. And so I'm like, I would have to feed you as much food as I possibly can. And when you told me, you're like, well, I fluctuated between 1,300, 2,200, up to 28. I even told you, I don't even think 2,800 was enough for you, and this is why. So I explained the process, what we do, how we need to find it. I need to feed you as much as we can to get your body to operate the way it needs to give it those, you know, the energy sources, so when you're working out, it can go and burn the fat. And I remember the second I said I would probably need to get you above 2,800, you were like, no. I don't know how much I trust that, because other people have told me that. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. Like,
and I'm like, I'm fat. Like eating more food does not make any sense at all, dude.
So I explained that, and then told him once we find the metabolic rate is when we then move you into the caloric deficit and we cut, because it's going to be easier to cut you from 3,000, you know, 2,800, whatever, down to maybe 1,800 versus if you're eating 1,300, where the hell am I going to cut you to 500 calories a day? Like, obviously your body's not going to respond. I told you, it's going to hold on to the fat. You're not going to be able to function. You can't think. You're going to run into these issues. And then I started to hear in your voice, like, okay, I think that kind of makes sense, but there's still that hesitancy. And then I asked you about the blood work, and when was the last time you got it done? And you told me, you know, how the doctors made you, you know, get it done, but everything checked out. And I told you, if you want to start, you have to get it again. And we're going to check a lot of other things.
Well, can I add a little color to that? So the amazing part of this conversation was, I recall it slightly different. You had actually asked, well, have you had your blood work done? And I'm like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And you said, well, have you had your testosterone checked? And I'm like,
that's right. Yeah.
I said, well, no, because like the doctor doesn't think that's an issue. Like that's not going to be an issue. Like, you know, I'm 34 years old. Like there's no reason that that's going to be an issue. And you said, no, I almost guarantee you have a testosterone problem. And I'm like, you're kind of crazy. And you said, because I think I actually told you that. I'm like, no, I think you're off on that part for sure. Because like the doctors have confirmed to me that that's probably low probability. And you said, no, I think that you would probably be surprised if you got that checked. And I kind of made a deal with him at that point. He said, well, why don't you go get your blood work checked and let's have a follow-up conversation. And if the testosterone's messed up, maybe we can have a conversation that you trust that I know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
And what was the result?
So I actually had to go to a place called Any Lab Test Now. Shout out to them. You can show up without a doctor's note or order and get any blood work you want. That's so nice. I went paid $75 for a testosterone test and waited 2 days. And when I got the result, it came back at 200.
Yeah.
And it blew my socks off. I was like, whoa. So here's a shocking thing that I don't know that you know this. I got on Intermountain Healthcare's website to look at previous blood work, because I remember when the very first time out of college I had like a real job with insurance, I had the doctor order like a whole array of tests, and I wonder if testosterone was on that.
Yeah.
And this was like in my I was probably 23 or 24.
Okay.
I pulled up my testosterone from that test that it got tested, and it was at 250 at that.
So
point.
it was
And I
low.
early-
It was
since
so
you
it
were
was
23.
and you know
from
how you
then
go
until
and
reconnected.
you know how you like they'll write notes
Yeah,
on
yeah,
your
yeah.
labs. There was a note next to that said testosterone's looking a little bit low. Just improve your lifestyle modifications, and this should be okay. Possibly should monitor. That was it.
We've tried.
So-
I've tried it naturally
Yeah.
for some of my clients, and it just
So doing
maybe
a
goes
TRT
up
treatment.
25, 30 pounds.
And to be clear for like the people listening, I've talked to the urologist that treats me, and medical doctor, like there's like the medical thought process and like urologists who specialize in this, they're thinking urologists say that it should be higher than 400.
Yeah.
Like
I agree.
at minimum 400 to 1300 is like the
agree.
range for
Mm-hmm.
your average adult male. And so even in my early 20s, being a paramedic, you know, working all kinds of hours and whatever, I thought that the lifestyle of that job was why I had kind of crappy energy. I could have been a completely different human. Like I was rocking a 250 T level at that point.
Since you were 23 years old.
Yep. Since I was 20. And then here I am, still feeling like shit in my early 30s and trying to figure things out. And I'm like 50 points even lower than that.
Yeah.
And well below the 400 threshold to
Did
even
you
function.
notice things like I noticed about myself? Like, and I was sleeping all
Yeah.
the time, man.
That was
like
the thing.
Did you
napping.
nap a lot? Did you
Oh,
nap a
dude,
lot?
Yeah,
man.
I
sleeping.
in the last like 5 years, especially around COVID, I started working from home, and especially like before working with Nick, was figuring out that I needed a nap during the day. So like between meetings, I'd go take a nap and whatever, and just felt like exhausted. And in
Is
the
it like a
evenings
2-hour nap,
after,
3-hour nap?
maybe an hour and a half nap, just depends.
30
on what
minutes
the-
to
what
all
the day-
night.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
depends.
And then in the evening, I mean, you know, I have a desk job, right? Like
Yeah.
a brain job. I'm not pouring concrete every day, right? But at the end of the workday, like I'm just exhausted, and you're dragging your ass to the gym and things like that.
Let me ask you this question. This is from a coaching, mentoring standpoint, because, you know, I work with Nick all day. How impressed were you having the initial conversation until you first started with Nick? Like, did that conversation solidify you all like, okay,
Well, the testosterone's what did it for me, because I'll be honest, I thought he was kind of full of shit when he's like, you need to just be eating a ton more food. That was the opposite of literally everybody. I mean, I went to the gym and started talking to some gym bros. Great thing to do, not. But I started talking to people, and you know, it's crazy. You start asking for advice in the gym, and one dude tells you, just start lifting heavy and eat a shit ton of calories. You know, like my friend Jared Collins, he's a power lifter, strongman kind of guy, and that's what he said. He's like, oh, I can fix your problem. Just eat 4,000 calories and lift heavy as shit, and you'll be fine. and same thing for him. I was like, Jared, you're so full of shit. Like, there's no way that that's right. And then the other dudes in the gym are like, no, dude, it's simple. You need to be burning more calories than you eat. So you adjust the lever of what you eat, and you should be on super low calories and still working in the gym and whatever, and create as big of a deficit as you possibly can, and you'll shred that weight off.
which is true, but there's a missing pieces to that, which we'll explain.
Yeah.
So when Nick called out the testosterone, I was like, oh my God, this is, and I didn't know much about testosterone at that point. I started researching and found out that there is an epidemic in this country of men is young. I thought the doctor was full of crap. But like 20-year-olds, people as young
100%.
20s,
Yep.
30s, 40s have major depletion of testosterone.
My youngest client, when he got his checked, he was, I think, 21 at the time, and his testosterone was lower than yours.
Yeah.
It was like 190, and he was 21.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And
Which studies show that you shouldn't be that low till you're like in your 70s, or that low at all. Like
You might as well
could
be
in the
dead at
200-300s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like that's
in your
not
70s.
normal. This
Yeah.
is not normal.
so when I started researching that, I learned that testosterone has a ton to do with cholesterol metabolism and fat metabolism, as well as like estrogen levels that will hold fat onto the male body, and that somebody that's been on testosterone replacement therapy, even for 6 months, can reduce their body fat percentage by like 8 to 10%
Without changing
like
their lifestyle.
Like I think that they did a study of men's abdominal diameter, and you can lose 3 or 4 inches off of your abdominal measurement just being on testosterone replacement therapy, because it normalizes that homeostatic process that already is going on in your body.
Yep.
My men's health urologist guy will say, isn't it amazing what happens to your body when you give it what it wants, right? So I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, this is the missing piece. This is why I'm tired. This is why I don't have energy. I don't feel motivated. Hard
time thinking, sex drive is low.
I'm not losing the weight that I want to lose. Like, this is obviously a foundational thing. He was the only one to really call that out and find that out of every, and I want to make something explicitly clear. This is not like a dig toward any of my other trainers at all. They all had a place in my fitness journey at the right time and taught me the things that I need. And in fact, you know, no offense to you guys, but I highly advocate for people to have multiple trainers through their fitness journey, because you learn so much from other people's views and philosophies and
100%.
whatever.
No, we
and I
agree with
don't,
that.
even though I think that you guys have been all encompassing in both the nutritional aspect and the fitness aspect of, you know, I think you like to say about the brand that you guys build from the inside out, right? Unfinished Lifestyle has been a radical contrast to anyone I've worked with, but I foresee in the future of working with other coaches and whatever, based on
which
what
we
your,
want. I mean, you know, as much as I want to keep you forever, right? Because we're friends at this point, and I love seeing you, I love interacting with you. But just like at my previous job, I wanted my best employees to leave.
Yes.
Because if they've gotten to the point where they're my best, I've done what I can with them, it's a disservice for me to hold on to them. Right. So which is the same thing.
Right.
So I remember, so you got the testosterone checked.
Yeah.
And then when we were talking at the blood work, and I told you why I wanted to get it checked, and you said, well, I've already done that. I said, okay, but has anyone adjusted your nutrition based off of your blood work? And you said no. I was like, that's the issue. Yes, we need to give the body what it needs, but the way we're going to know what the hell it needs is by looking at the blood work.
Yes.
I need to see how your kidneys and liver are. I need to see cholesterol, triglycerides. I need to see testosterone. I need to see thyroid.
Yeah.
So we got all that back, and I want to talk about the blood work, and then I want to talk about your doctor who is concerned about your fatty liver.
Yes.
Before we get to that point, let's talk about this for a second and how we and how we created this process with Unfinished Lifestyle when we opened up Unfinished Lifestyle. And we figured out there's 3 phases into our program, right? So listeners that are watching this, or you're listening through Spotify, these are the 3 steps that we've created and understood that we know that this is going to work. And before we even get to that point, we required you to get a blood work done, right? So we know how to read a blood work panel. Number 1. Number 2, we used to say a recommendation for blood work. Yeah. But right now we required every single one of our clients.
Right.
It's mandatory. Because it saves us so much time to eliminate a lot of the gray areas, right? Because remember, at the end of the day, we coach it from inside out, not outside in. Right. Okay. So then we created a process where we go from phase 1, increase metabolic rate. That takes 6 to 12 weeks, roughly, sometimes more. Yep. And then phase 2, cutting phase, depending on your body fat, your body weight, and your height, you can go from 15, 18 to 24 weeks cut. Straight cut with some high days, refeeds, and cheat meals, right? And then phase 3, increasing metabolic rate again while keeping your body fat low. And at the end of that phase 3, you can get either bulk, depends on if you're done with your body fat, right? If you like where you're at, or sometimes we go to another deficit, back to phase 2. So if you're listening to this right now, that's how we work, and that's how we coach, and that's why we're so successful at what we do. And yes, it takes time. A lot of our clients has been with us for almost literally a lot of our transformations takes 12 to 15 months.
That's also like rinse and repeat too. You don't just do that one time. Like
Nope.
I have bulk cut. I've been with you 2 years, like 4 times, 5 times.
So body recomposition happens consistently. And every time you increase calories back to your maintenance, guess what? You have more muscle mass, which means more calories that you need to consume.
Exactly.
Right.
So a lot of people don't know that.
Right.
They just go straight into the deficit and then they plateau. You did that multiple times.
And one thing I want to call out too about the program is that it's, I'm a business guy, so I'm all about data, right? And objective measurements. And one thing I love about working with Nick is he always says, well, we're going to just look at the data and make decisions off of the data.
Exactly.
And at this point, I've been blessed with the opportunity to have had DEXA scans all the way back when I wasn't even doing my fitness journey. Like DEXA Body came to my work like 8 years ago and scanned everybody for like a fitness competition that everyone was doing. So I have like data from that point. And then
I'm glad you get to keep that because I didn't keep my old ones. Yeah.
Well, and they'll give you a copy just so you know. But what's cool is that is a trend. We have a whole narrative, and I even went even further. And with each one of my trainers, I had them send me all of my measurements and all that. And we've kind of we're going to work on compositing all of that. But like I think that's the huge differentiator as well, because I know that some trainers don't even care if you go get a DEXA scan or not or whatever. And I know my gym partner will watch this, but I always give him a hard time because it was like pulling teeth to get him to go do a DEXA scan, and he doesn't like do measurements or anything. And all the time we have he'll say, dude, am I looking bigger? Like, I don't know if what we're doing is like working. We made these changes. And I'm like, dude,
if
like,
you measured it, then you would answer that question.
Measuring your body, or are we going to do DEXA scans or whatever? But and he's a little bit looser on that than I am, and so I'm always giving him a hard time. But that's also a driver, I think, because we look at data every single week, and he will make adjustments accordingly. And it's not the Wild West, and I think that's how I've gotten to where I am today.
And thank you for bringing that up, because we are very diligent in what we do. And in fact, I got a new client over the week, and he's an online, same thing. And I asked him about his previous coach. And how much he was paying, what he did. And I literally showed him what we do, our program, and he sees our program and how diligent we are with our program. And he was like, bro, are you kidding me? And I'm like, dude, this is where we're so successful, because we see everything. And then at the end of the day, we ask you to do a DEXA scan as well, if that's something that you really want to do.
Well, and don't get me wrong, it can be exhausting collecting this data, and then we have to filter through and go through it. But I would rather do that to make sure I'm giving you what you want and getting you to where you want to be, so I can keep my job. You can send me referrals versus getting the Instagram post, just doing a quick, let's just cut you really quick, have you lose 30, 40 pounds. I'm going to post you on Instagram to get a bunch of other people, and then I'll see you in 6 months when you put the weight back on.
Yeah, and I have a comment about that, because I've learned that in my fitness journey. It's funny how you learn and gain wisdom in your fitness journey, but one thing that I learned, like when I signed up with my first coach, I literally had this mindset of like, okay, I'm going to pay this girl $2,000, and in 6 months I'm going to look like a beast and like have the tools and be ready to go. But what's funny is during my time working with her, one of the things that she taught me is that there is no finish lines to fitness. It's a continual journey of iteration, and you have to have that mindset. You know, like even with Nick, like I thought, he's like, well, you can do like a year contract with me, or you can do the 6 months. And I was like, oh, I'll just sign up for the 6 months because like I'll learn and do what I need to in that way. And now we're like three contracts in or whatever, you know.
Which I told you, like you can do 6 months if you want, you can do a year, you can be with me as long as you want, but understand the second you hit your goal, you have to have another one.
You have to have another one.
You have to, because if we get you to where you want to be and you're okay, thanks, bye. I told you, I will probably have to see you again, or I'm going to see that you're with somebody else because it didn't stick, it wasn't sustainable.
So I think you have to have a mindset that this is a continual process of improvement, and don't don't get caught up in these programs, you know, the summer beach body program or this or the fad diets or whatever. You really just have to commit to completely. I mean, that's, I guess, what the brand is, right?
Exactly. I was going to point that out.
Point out that right there.
The elephant in the room here, right? You know, it's a continual
Shameless
process,
advertising.
right?
Yeah.
It's almost like he named it on purpose.
I know.
Yeah,
It's weird.
Weird. So anyway,
I love
Yeah.
that.
but there's like real wisdom in that.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that thought process. That solidified when we created Unfinished Lifestyle. We thought about doing unfinished fitness, unfinished something, and then the reason why I put lifestyle in there is because anything the word fitness, it sounds a little too aggressive.
You didn't want
right?
to do 6 month fitness.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, it's unfinished lifestyle, man. You know what I mean? But back to that doctor that you said you want to talk about.
Yeah.
As far as your
So I remember when we were talking about it, and I told you to get the blood work done. You told me that your doctor was also concerned that you might be developing fatty liver.
Yeah, so I went to another family doctor that I really like that I got referred to when I started with Nick, because I needed a family doctor when I was getting on the T and everything, and he did my blood work again, and my triglycerides were really high. I mean, so to clarify,
I think they're around like 400.
When I started with Nick, I was at 218 pounds at 36% body fat, which really pissed me off, if I'm being honest, because that's the fattest I've ever been. Like
after all the trial and errors,
yeah, like 36% body fat. And it's stupid because like on the DEXA scan paper, it says like you're obese if you're over, and I'm like, I'm in the gym for an hour and a half every goddamn day.
Before I started going to the gym, I'm 6'1", and I think I was like 160 pounds, like skinny. I'm 200 now. Skinny. And they were like, yeah, you're like borderline obese. And I was like, bro, there ain't nothing on me. Like,
according to the BMI, we're both.
Oh,
Yes.
we're both. I'm overweight.
We're severely obese.
I'm severely overweight now too. I roughly come in 197 to 204 like regularly, just depending on you know like what's going on.
And
36%.
so I go to the doctor. He did my blood work, and my triglycerides were really quite high.
Yeah.
And my liver lab, I think my ALT, if I'm not wrong, was high. And so he said, "Hey, you have enough body fat on you that you could be considered to have fatty liver." And your liver's taking a hit, so you got to be doing something here to change this.
So this is before you started training with Nick.
It was at the same time.
Yeah, it was
Okay. So I was wondering if it was after or before, but about the same time. Gotcha.
Right? And I said, well, what do you want me to do? And he says, you need to be doing the cardio, 50 minutes a day, 5 times a day. That's the recommendation. And you have to be in a steep deficit. So he actually said 1,300 calories in addition to the cardio.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, the opposite of what I told him. So then you came back to me with the blood work and told me what your doctor said. And you're like, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm confused as hell. I don't know who to trust right now. And I was like, that's fine.
And that's what I told the doctor. And I said, I have a trainer telling me.
But how do you not trust a doctor?
Right.
Like, how do you not trust a doctor?
And that's what I told him. I said, dude, he's like, I've been practicing medicine for 35 years. And I said, well, I trust you. You look legit. You're kind to me. You're professional. But I said, what do? I got a trainer here that's telling me one thing, and you're telling me that literally the complete opposite, and you're telling me my liver's about to shit the bed. So what do I do here? And he says, well, he's like, I'll just tell you, eating a whole lot of calories just sounds like a lot of gym bro culture stuff. So you do what you want, but I will tell you that if you increase your calories, you're not going to lose weight, and you're going to be right back in here on your follow-up in a worse situation. And we're going to be having this conversation again, and then you're going to be on the treadmill with 1,300 calories like I told you.
Okay.
And I said, well, how about I listen to my trainer for 90 days and see where that gets me. And if I feel like that's leading me down the wrong road, then I'll listen to you. And he says, I'm fine. He's like, it's your body, your choice. I said, okay. So that I decided to just listen to Nick.
And then how much calories did you ended up eating?
I think we started around your 22 because that's what you were eating. So, of course, I want to keep it there. And we gradually were going up. And I remember you were sending me your check-ins, and one of the questions is, are you hungry in between meals, yes or no? And I remember on one of them you put yes, and I don't understand why.
Right.
And I knew you were having that, like that, there's that doubt and there was that fear in your head of why the hell am I hungry eating this much?
Yeah, I started eating a shit ton of food. Like, I didn't have enough time in the day to eat all this food. And all of a sudden, I started getting super hungry.
But when I built the meal plan again, when we got your blood work back, I told same thing. Your triglycerides were near 400, which is high. So I'm like, there's a lot of fat and oil in the blood. Your cholesterol was off. AST and ALT were showing, high enzyme levels. So I'm like, we have to be specific with the food. So I told you no white rice. We're gonna go brown rice. So not quite a Mediterranean diet, but for just to get the point across, we went more of that route. So we kept clean white meats, introduced some fruits.
And you were on TRT at this point, yeah?
Yeah, I started on that.
I had a similar experience too. I remember when I first started with Yo, he was feeding me so much food that I swear to God, anytime I took another spoonful, it was like right up here, man. Like I couldn't even swallow it because I was so full. 2 days later, I'm like, God, I've never been this hungry in my life. And it's not like I'm feeling kind of hungry. Like 2 days later, all of a sudden, you're like, dude, I'm going to die if I don't eat something.
Right.
But I remember you said that check-in. So when I responded to you, I was like, hey, thanks for saying the check-in. I'm glad you're getting hungry. I want to give you more food. When are you getting hungry? And then you respond and you're like, well, okay, well, let's talk about that. Why do I need more food? And so, again, we explain because that means your body's actually responding. It's utilizing all the food. Your thyroid is saying, hey, I'm working now. You got a lot of muscle mass. I need more food to keep this. So I'm going to turn on that gene that says we need to speed up the metabolism. So I give you more food, and then the scale was slowly dropping, right? And people think at this point you're going to be losing a shit ton of weight, and you're going to see like 15 pounds drop off. For you, it was a very gradual drop. And I remember you were like, well, why, if I'm getting hungry and you're giving me more food, why is the scale not moving more?
Right.
And so we kind of worked through that, and you trust me. And then I don't think you went back to the doctor after 90 days. It was
like more like 6
later.
months.
Yeah.
And I walked in there and I stepped on a stupid scale and talked to the medical assistant and whatever. And I had my DEXA scan right there. And
you were ready.
You
were ready.
We were ready for this conversation.
And he walked in and he said, well, what's up? How's it been going? I said, well, if you look at this DEXA scan, I handed it to him. And I went from 36% body fat, and I'm at 30% body.
It was 30
fat.
on the dot.
On the dot.
So you dropped 6%. Within that 24
body
weeks.
fat.
Okay.
Yep.
And I don't remember the weight shift. It was like,
I mean, you started with me at like 218. I think at this point you were like 208, maybe 210.
210-ish.
Yeah. So on the scale, so for people listening, right, we don't just use the scale as our unit of measurement for success, because at that point, 6 months and you've only lost like 8-10 pounds. Most people are like, what the hell? Like, this is a waste of my time.
Yeah.
But on the DEXA scan, you went from 36% to 30%. So that's 6% body fat.
Yeah.
And in that same amount of time, you added, I think it was like 12 or 13 pounds of muscle tissue.
13 and a half pounds of muscle.
That's why the scale wasn't moving, and that's why it gets frustrating. Is because you're trading.
And
like
that, kids, is why you do a DEXA scan, because not
that's
all
why we
body
collect the damn
is the same.
data.
There's a difference between like being 200 pounds and 30% body fat and 200 pounds at 11% or being super lean, and having more muscle. I had the same experience with him. Like, I weighed the most that I had ever weighed, which in my mind was like, that's not good. I weigh a lot. But then I like looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, but I look pretty good. Like,
So here my doctor is, he's looking at my DEXA scan and he's looking at the medical chart from the weigh-in with him last time. And he says, you've lost 6% body fat and you're down literally 10 pounds on the scale. And the DEXA scan said you've put on 13 and a half pounds of muscle. He said, so it looks like the 1,300 calorie diet's working well. And I said, well, actually, if you recall, I went with my trainer, not you, and I've been eating 3,800 calories.
almost 4,000.
And he said...
And he said, that medically does not make any sense at all. And I said, well, like...
There's the data, so
there's the data
medically it does make
the
sense.
Proof. And then he made a really obnoxious comment after that. And he says, oh, well, we need to not forget that you are also getting help from the needle, too. So maybe that helps quite a bit, too.
Yep. So for those of you who are wondering how Captain America got that big, it's
super
testosterone.
Serum,
Apparently, it's just testosterone, and that's what's going to solve it.
I was listening to a podcast.
And if it was that way, I'd never go to the gym again, bro. I'd just get injections and stay at home, play video games.
Exactly.
I was listening to a podcast this week actually by Sean Whalen, who's a pretty huge dude.
Yep.
And he said, he says there's these obnoxious comments made all the time about like, steroids in general, if you even want to put testosterone in that bucket. But he's like, if steroids got everybody jacked, every guy in the world would have a needle in their ass kind of a deal, right? Because it just doesn't work that way, you know. And my best friend actually made a comment to me the other, when I had started on T and started having those results, I went over and had a barbecue with him, and he says, dude, you're looking pretty jacked. Those steroids must be working really good for you. And I was like, hey, dude, F you. Actually, maybe 2 hours of heavy ass lifting every morning for 5 times a week has something to do with it, and proper nutrition and professionals in my life that know what they're doing. So maybe that has something to do with it.
When I shared my transformation online, I got an overwhelming amount of DMs, not from girls, unfortunately. It was a bunch of dudes. But the first thing out of everyone's mouth was, what do you take, bro? Yeah. Yep. And I was like, I take my ass to the gym.
I take eggs and chicken and rice.
To the gym, and I work out real hard.
That's the issue that we run into, and I've gotten into arguments over the phone with my clients' doctors when they're in our office because, again, they refuse to check testosterone, and when they do, they're like, I'm not going to put them on steroids. I'm like, but it's not a goddamn steroid.
Right.
If that's the case, insulin is also a steroid for diabetics. It's a hormone the body is having a hard time producing, or it needs more of. So we have to give the body what it needs. We die because our hormone levels drop and they can no longer support our organs.
Right.
That's the sole purpose as to why we age and why we die. So obviously we got to keep that high. But so I remember when you sent your email after you met with the doctor, and I read that line where you said, and I quote, he says, "This makes no medical sense."
Yep.
So again, I'm not saying that we're smarter than doctors, right? I'm never going to say that, 'cause we're not a doctor. These doctors know what they're doing. They went to school. They're smart as hell. But it shows the huge disconnect between proper nutrition and what a healthy lifestyle and what you're supposed to be doing looks like versus what doctors in our education system are teaching people in this country. So this is the issue that we run into, is we get individuals like you who have been through hell trying to do this stuff. It's not working. You come to us. We tell you our way of doing it. And you immediately, like, your brain is like, hell no, I'm not doing that. Right. I don't trust that because everyone else has said the opposite and it doesn't work. Why would more food work? Why would this work?
Right. And luckily that guy swallowed his pride, because I said, well, what do you want me to do now? And he says, well, it appears that you're doing all the right things, so keep listening to your trainer, buddy.
Yep.
Finally, he said something.
And so we got the blood work. So we got the blood work back. Cholesterol had improved a little bit, which made me happy. HDL was coming up, slightly. LDL was coming down, and we knew that was going to take time. So as long as we saw, slight improvements, I'm like, cool, we're going to keep working on it. But your triglyceride units dropped 100 units.
Yes.
Which means, so we kept water intake high. We were giving you fiber. We were making sure we're eating clean white meats. We kept your healthy fats, like nuts, avocados, egg yolks, stuff like this. We kept that at a pretty decent level. I think you're at like 50, 55 grams a day to help thin that out. So again, we collect the data and we go back and compare, and we see fat percentage drop, muscle mass went up, blood work is improving.
Right.
And I remember right there, you're like, okay, now, like, I believe you.
So do you fully trust this program?
100%, because there's results. Yep. And I feel that every day being me, right? Like with my body and my performance and all that. But like the numbers tell the narrative that obviously we know what we're doing.
We were talking about this before we even started recording, how even from the last time I saw you, which was only a couple months ago, like you super leaned out.
Yeah.
I remember when we talked about, we finally hit that metabolic rate 3,800. I was like, okay, now is the time where we're going to do your cut. And I remember you're like, I'm not going to go into it blindly and just trust you blindly. But I remember we had that same conversation in the office around the time we did our interview. You're like, I've been at this point and this is where shit hits the fan. So you were just as worried as you were coming into the program. Sure. So we talked about our concerns as to how we're going to do the cut, explain the carb cycling, explain when we're going to do refeeds. Mm-hmm. That's why I need you to check in every week, have you come in for measurements so we can track it, what signs we're going to look for to make sure that the cut's going, the way it needs to.
Right. So
we started that in January. So remember, you were eating about 3,800 calories at this point. Your carbs were sitting around 350. Started to bring it all, back full circle. Started you at 2 low days and 1 high day. So your low days, we generally, when we start out, we like to maybe keep that about 100 grams less. So 350 to 250. your weight starts dropping. You know, we're dropping more, but again, it was very gradual drops, but it was progressing in a way to where I wasn't concerned that we were dropping muscle tissue.
Right.
The body starts to plateau a little bit as it's going to. Eventually, you have to give a refeed to replenish that glycogen, give the body a chance to actually get a lot of food so it can send it where it needs to. It can feel better. So we do that to help the weight move. And then we talked and said, hey, let's try 3 low days and 1 high day. Because typically with our fat loss clients, we push them hard. We'll go 3 low, 1 high, 4 low, 1 high. Eventually, maybe, depending on the individual, all low days, we keep the carbs really, really low to really tackle that fat. But the second we move to 3 low, 1 high, your body's shut down.
Yep.
And hell no. And you're like, what is going on? My weight's not budging. And after, so I'm like, let's see by the next check-in where it's at. So 2 weeks went by, 1/4 pound is all you dropped.
But did you see how we're not making changes just because of that?
Yeah, we're not reacting.
Right.
We're not reacting.
It's,
like,
it's not a reactionary thing, right?
it's
So
not
we
changing,
have-
so let's take more food away.
Yeah.
Like, let's give it another week and see.
Don't get me wrong, we've done that before. I've done that before where I'm kind of catering to the client and I'm like, bro, I want to do this now. And I'm like, okay.
Okay, let's see if
And
this
it
is gonna
always
work.
bites me in the ass.
Yep.
And so that's what we created this program. It's like, okay, we're gonna do it, we're gonna push it.
Yep.
We're gonna hold this calories for a little bit longer before we start our deficit.
Exactly.
You gotta listen, but some people can't do it. Like I'm not saying all of our clients that came to our program are perfect, right?
Right.
None of us are actually, but there a good percentage of clients that trust it from the beginning to an end, and then they're like, dude, this is crazy. I weigh exactly the same, and I'm like, I know,
Yeah, but your body
Right.
fat.
but you look so different in the mirror.
Exactly.
Recomposition,
Yeah,
right?
body recomposition.
So once we got that data back, I told you, I'm like, you know what? I don't think your body likes going that long with lower amounts of food. So I'm going to put you back at 2 low, 1 high. And I remember like that, again, that makes you feel weird about it, but okay, let's do it. And the same thing, your body started responding, started working well. So then we decided to go 2 low, 2 high just to see. I want to give you that extra refeed because your weight started to plateau a little bit in the last, like a few weeks ago. We were dropping, but it's very minimal. So I'm like, why don't we give your body a refeed every few days?
Right.
To just keep it happy, you know, give it the extra glucose, keep your glycogen full, keep the muscle bellies full, and then your weight just started going and going and going.
Yep.
And your last check-in, you were what, 203?
Yep. 203.
So again, on the scale, you're
barely
only down 15 pounds from when you started with me a year ago.
Right.
So for anyone who's just wanting to lose weight, not fat, but weight, to only lose 15 pounds in a year, anyone who, like, if they saw that number, they're like, you wasted your time, you wasted your money, what the hell were you doing?
Yep.
But then yesterday,
Yes.
we went and got another DEXA body scan.
Yep.
And I was very excited about this because I remember when we hit that 30%, you were telling me you'd never been in the 20th percentiles.
Never.
At all
I
throughout
have
this
a
journey.
DEXA history log from 2017 that fluctuates from 36% body fat, 32, 34, 30, whatever. Never, ever have I been in the 20s.
Yep.
And now you're 26%.
Yep.
That's
It was like
amazing.
26.8, but you did have some food and some water.
Yeah.
So obviously that is going to that's going to bump it up just a little bit. So ideally we want to go and fasted for anyone who's going to go and do that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to round it down to 26.
Yeah.
Just because I want to. So talking about that, how does it, so actually let's talk about it. So it's 26%. So you dropped 4% from the time we started our cut until now. Remember eating a literal shit ton of food,
Yes.
like an ungodly amount of food, and we're cutting.
Right.
Which again, that makes 0 sense.
Yes.
But your muscle mass stayed the exact same.
Yep.
We didn't lose any muscle tissue throughout this entire process, and you dropped 4% body fat.
Yep.
So we got it done yesterday. We get the printout. You looked at it. How did you feel? Like, talk to us about that. What was the reaction? What was going through your head when you saw these numbers?
I felt amazing because, again, I've never seen those numbers before, and it felt good to know that I'm that far into the 20s. This year, I have a goal of 20%.
Yep.
But it felt empowering to know that I have developed the skills and the discipline to make the changes in my body to affect those goals and to reach those goals. And honestly, like, it's awesome to just have a roadmap to get to those things, right?
Yep.
To be able to know that there's knowledge and experience out there that can walk you down a road that if that's your goal, you can literally walk down that road and get to that 20%. I shedded that doubt and worry and concern that I had before of, I don't understand what's going on with my body. I don't know what to do to change it. I don't know what levers to pull. I don't know who to contact. All of that went away, and I was like, okay, my hard work is paying off. Exactly. I'm starting to get and see the results that I desire, and the fruits of my labor are starting to manifest, right?
But in a year, you've dropped 10% body fat. That's like 20-something pounds of fat tissue you've dropped.
Yes.
And in that same time, again, added the muscle tissue. And then I remember when we started the cut, you were concerned. You're like, well, what about my muscle mass? Like, am I going to lose that? Sometimes with this deficit, because you are in such a, extreme deficit for majority of our clients, you might lose a little bit of muscle tissue.
Yeah.
Right. But the goal is to sustain as much of it as possible to lose the fat, so that fat to muscle ratio flips. You now have more muscle tissue compared to fat mass.
Yep.
Now, when we reverse you out of that cut, your metabolic rate is going to be higher. But that wasn't the case for you. We've kept literally all of it.
Yep.
So we talked about that yesterday and what we're going to do. And we decided, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to continue the too low, too high. We're going to see if we can get below 26%. We might try too high, 3 low, maybe adjust it, or to go too high, too low, but we're going to adjust the high days and the low days and start taking some carbs away, again, to see how the body reacts. And if by collecting that data, we see that your body, again, plateaus and it doesn't like it, then we know in order for you to lose fat, you have to, again, eat a shit ton of food.
Yep.
And we have to give you those 2 high days weekly.
Yep.
Back to back. We can't adjust that pattern.
Right.
So I want you to think about that. So when you called me last year, you were confused as hell.
Yep.
You were like, who do I trust? Do I eat 1,300 calories or do I eat 2,800 calories? Do I need to be doing all this cardio? Do I need to be doing all that? And now what, your cardio, you've been doing like, what, an hour? Just walking? Like
I do 30 minutes a day.
Yeah. So it's not even anything crazy. And it's like a walk with the dog around the neighborhood or on the treadmill.
So what is your takeaway from that?
Yeah.
My question is, for the people that are listening to you right now, to us right now, they probably have the very, very similar situation. They've been to multiple trainers, multiple doctors. They all said this different things. What is your takeaway from that? And what is your advice for the people that are listening?
Yeah. I mean, I think the fitness, when I started my fitness journey, it was super overwhelming. And that's why I hired a trainer in the first place, was if you get on the internet, we talked about this before the podcast as well, you can get on the internet and find literally any information that you want and any different viewpoint that'll tell you what you want to hear. Right. Yep. And there in the fitness space, unfortunately, there's all kinds of different myths, don't eat after 7 p.m. or it doesn't matter if you do, or, another one is like, don't drink cow's milk, or, like that's.
Well,
that's
what I think that comes
thing,
from
right?
is somebody somewhere at some point in time did something like that and it worked for them.
Yeah.
Same thing. Your diet, your carb cycling, your everything will not work for me. If I did what you do, I might put on weight and unhealthy weight or something like. Yeah. So I think when they say medically, it doesn't make sense. Is because when they talk about medically, it's like, here is the one way.
They want the one size fits all.
Do it.
Right.
There's a chart.
Yep.
Which again is why we get blood work done, because we have to build a meal plan according to what your body is saying it needs and what it can't not handle.
So it's not so much that your doctor is wrong. It's just that Nick catered to you specifically, where he caters to patients.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well said.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that was what I was going to say is, when you're starting your fitness journey, you have to think about the results and the goals that you want first, in my opinion. And I said this, I think on a community call, that our gym has, a couple of weeks ago. And that is that the most important thing you have to do is develop a vision for yourself and what the goal is. I know in my mind, visually, the exact physique that I want, and I know exactly, the body that I want. And I'm blown away because I'll look myself in the gym mirror now, like when I'm getting ready to work out or whatever, and I am seeing that person now, and I've never been able to see that person.
Well, you laying on the DEXA bed yesterday, I was looking at your arm, like your shoulder's the size of your head now, bro. Like your arms look huge, and your veins are popping out.
When you're in the gym and you see yourself, do you feel emotional at some point?
100%, because I've become the person that I dreamt of being, and it's almost my brain hasn't caught up to the fact that I am so close to my goal.
Yeah.
That I look in the mirror and I'm like, like I don't even recognize myself. I know that's like sounds stupid and cliche to say, but like I look at like I have trap like the trap triangle now, and everyone. It's funny because everyone suffers from body dysmorphia a little bit.
100%.
Everyone's like, your arms are so huge, and like I don't know if I see that, but after like doing an arm workout, I'll like look at my arms and I'll be like, holy shit, like that doesn't even feel like my body anymore. But the key, I think, to your fitness journey is you have to have such a compelling vision of where it is that you want to go. Because if you don't have a vision strong enough, that you'll never be able to pull yourself through the mud of how hard the work is to get there. People look at me and they think, oh, you're just this successful guy, Austin. You love getting up at 4:45 every morning and getting your ass to 2 hours of gym and lifting heavy. People don't know the demons. I mean, you're huge. People don't know the demons that you face to have to hit your goals, 100%. That you have to battle. So the first is to have that compelling vision. And then I think the second thing is when you start looking at how to get to that point, you have to find trainers that that have the results to get you there.
But not just trainers, but you have to surround yourself with people who are going to help you get there.
Oh, 100%.
Because going through this, it's not easy, right? And so again, people look at you and like, oh yeah, you just because you get up at 4:45 and you lift heavy, that's what happens. Like, well, don't discredit the work I put in. Right. That not just the physical hell, but the mental and the emotional hell you had to go through with this, and we all experienced that.
You ever,
right? Like
showing up at the gym and then sat in the parking lot?
Oh,
trying to convince myself to go in.
And you're right there.
You know what that feels like.
You're right there,
but
man.
we all deal
like,
with
you'd
that.
rather just drive home, like, you know.
Well, and people
like,
think because we're in the gym all the time, like, and there's a bunch of bad eggs within the gym world, like these dudes who think that they're better than everyone and they're so sexy and this and that. For me, the sole reason why I am in the gym and I'm lifting heavy, yes, because I want to look good. I want to look good for my wife. I want her to still find me attractive, but it's because my entire life I went hating the way I looked. There'd be times like when I was getting ready in the morning, I would only look in the mirror to hurry and do my hair and shave. And other than that, I couldn't even make eye contact with myself. And I still struggle with some of that stuff, right? Like my self-image things. But that's why we're in the gym.
Right.
And people don't want to face those demons. They don't want to have to come face to face with their insecurities or, having to hold themselves accountable. And, you held yourself accountable. I don't know what the conversations with yourself looked like or some of the struggles you went through, again, mentally and emotionally and, thinking about yourself or, if you beat yourself up or anything like that. But I'm sure you went through that. But then you send me your check-in and you don't bullshit me. You don't put, when I say, how was your week? It was fine. You don't put 3 words. You are going into detail. Like your check-ins are the ones that take me the longest because you include the data I need.
We love those.
And I tell you, like, this is an easy check-in. Thank you. It's not because you didn't put, hell of a lot on the check-in sheet. It's just you gave me enough to go off of that. I was like, cool, this is going to be an easy check-in because I have all the data. So it's not, you pay a trainer a bunch of money and we give you a meal plan and exercise routine and you're going to turn into this Adonis. It's you have to hold up your end of the bargain. You have to put in the work. You have to check in. You have to communicate with us. And then it's not that we want you to trust us blindly. But you need to trust our process and then have that conversation with us of, okay, help me to understand why I'm doing this. And you did that perfectly. And now here we are a year later, 10% body fat down, 13, 14 pounds of muscle mass added, feeling like a completely different person.
And you want to know what I think the biggest secret of all that is? To me, it's about honesty and integrity with not just your coach, but with just yourself. Mm-hmm. And, if you say you're going to go to the gym today and you tell yourself that, if you don't do that, you create disloyalty in yourself.
Exactly.
And then you can't be reliable to yourself.
Yep.
I think it was Alex Hormozi that says this, and I absolutely love it, but he says that winning is all about 1,000 golden BBs. And what he's alluding to there is that you win with small, consistent steps.
Yep.
Maybe it is sitting in the gym parking lot for 10 minutes before you go in, but the fact that you got your ass out of the car and just walked in the gym doors, maybe that's the win, right? For the day. Like when you're first starting your journey, maybe just getting yourself to the gym and walking around that gym and doing nothing more than that.
Yeah, just walking inside is a win. Yeah, celebrate the step goals.
And tomorrow you try again. I mean, when I first started, I'm not embarrassed to admit that I would go into the gym and get halfway done with the workout and be like, I can't do this anymore. And I would leave and I wouldn't beat myself up over it. It was just like, I got myself there. I did the best I can. I'm going to try to do better tomorrow.
Wow.
Exactly.
And
love
then
that.
the second thing is like, don't focus on the results, focus on your effort.
Yep.
Be honest about your effort. If you're not getting the results that you want, think about how you're really doing on your effort.
Yeah.
You know, are you actually being compliant on your meal plan, or are you kind of not? When I was self-programming, I literally deluded my brain into thinking that like, oh, I can go to Arby's and be okay because, you know, meat, protein,
Yep.
this, you know, Arby's beef melt is not, you know, a McDonald's quarter pounder, so I'm okay, right? Like I literally,
You rationalize with
my,
yourself.
Yeah, rationalize my brain to think like that, and it wasn't I wasn't being honest about the effort,
Yeah,
so I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. So
I love
that's
that.
the
I
huge
love that. We're gonna wrap it up here soon, and thank you for being on our podcast. And this is why we do this, guys. Like we do this because I want Austin to share his experience with all of you, clients that are watching this, clients that are listening to this, or anybody who's listening to this. I hope you guys feel inspired by his, you know, transformation. And you failed multiple times, but yet you kept going. That's the one thing that I got from this conversation. You failed so much and so hard, and you spent thousands of dollars, bro, thousands of dollars. And until you met the right person, until you met the right trainer, now you kind of know exactly what you need to do, and that can propel you to the unfinished lifestyle.
Exactly.
You know,
Absolutely.
for life. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
Anything
thanks
else?
for having
Anything else you want to add to this?
No, I think we covered it. Just gotta get back on the horse when you fall, and remember, there's no finish lines in your fitness journey. It's
Exactly.
It's
continue it.
lifestyle.
Just continue it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I appreciate you coming on. I'm excited to post your transformation. I'm going to wait until we get your blood work because I want to put that data on there to show people cholesterol's more than likely improved, triglycerides have dropped more. Talk about that as well. So
Awesome.
I appreciate you. Thank you
bet.
for coming on. Thank you for
Thanks
being
for
an
having
amazing
me, guys.
client. Thanks for
You bet.
trusting us. Again, like, share, comment, do all the fun stuff. Message Austin, follow him. He's also an amazing photographer. So if you need pictures taken, if you need portraits, he is the man. I'll tag him in this as well. So
Yep.
I appreciate you,
guys.
dude.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.